Dr. Hana Kim wiped the sweat from her forehead as she stepped out of the research shuttle. The dry wind of Kepler 442c hit her face, carrying the scent of ancient dust and something else she could not name. Behind her, the rest of the science team was already unloading equipment, their voices mixing with the hum of machines. "There it is," Captain Lee Taman said, pointing toward the horizon. "The locals call it the Sleeping Dragon." Hana shielded her eyes and looked where he pointed. In the distance, a massive structure rose from the desert floor like a mountain made of glass. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The crystalline surface caught the light of the two suns, sending rainbow patterns dancing across the sand. "How long has it been there?" Hana asked. "No one knows for sure. The Kepler colonies have stories about it going back 300 years, but it was probably here much longer than that." Dr. Cho Junho, the ship's medical officer, joined them. He was carrying a scanner that beeped constantly. "The energy readings are off the charts," he said. "But it's completely dormant, like a computer that's been turned off for centuries." Hana nodded but said nothing. She felt something strange when she looked at the dragon. It was not fear exactly. It was more like the feeling she got when she looked at old photos of her grandmother, a mix of sadness and love that she could not explain. The team spent the morning setting up their base camp. Hana was supposed to study the biological samples they found in the area, but she kept finding excuses to walk closer to the dragon. Each time she got near it, the feeling grew stronger. "You seem fascinated by our sleeping friend," Captain Taman said, appearing beside her as she stood at the edge of their camp. "It feels familiar somehow," Hana admitted. "I know that sounds crazy." "Not crazy, just human. We're pattern-seeking creatures. Sometimes we see connections that aren't really there." But Hana was not so sure. That afternoon, while the others were busy with their instruments, she walked alone to the base of the dragon. Up close, it was even more impressive. The crystalline surface was not smooth like she had expected. Instead, it was covered in tiny patterns that looked almost like writing. She reached out and touched the surface. It was warm, despite being in shadow. As her fingers traced the patterns, she began to hum without thinking about it. It was an old song her grandmother had sung to her when she was little. A lullaby about a mother bird watching over her chicks. The moment the melody left her lips, something changed. The crystal under her hand began to glow with a soft blue light. The glow spread outward like ripples on water, racing across the entire surface of the dragon. Hana stepped back, her heart pounding. But the dragon did not seem dangerous. If anything, the light felt warm and welcoming. She could swear she heard something like an echo of her own voice coming from deep inside the structure. "Hana!" Captain Taman's voice came from behind her. "What did you do?" She turned to see the entire team running toward her, their instruments beeping wildly. Dr. Cho's scanner was making sounds she had never heard before. "I just touched it," she said, "and I was humming." "The whole thing lit up like a Christmas tree," said Sergeant Bei Ji-wan, the team's security chief. "Our sensors went crazy." Dr. Cho was studying his readings with wide eyes. "The energy output increased by 3,000%, he said. "But it's not dangerous energy. It's more like communication signals." Captain Taman looked from Hana to the dragon and back again. "Communication with what?" Before anyone could answer, the light began to fade, but it did not disappear completely. A soft glow remained, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. "I think it's listening," Hannah said quietly. That night, Hannah could not sleep. She lay in her tent, staring at the ceiling and thinking about the dragon. Every time she closed her eyes, she could hear her grandmother's voice singing the old lullabies. But there was something else mixed in with the memory. A voice she did not recognize singing along. She got up and walked outside. The dragon stood, silent in the moonlight, but she could see the faint glow still pulsing in its depths. Without really deciding to, she began walking toward it. "Can't sleep either?" Dr. Cho appeared beside her. He was holding a cup of coffee and looked tired. "It's calling to me," Hannah said. "I know how that sounds, but I can feel it." "Maybe it is calling to you. We've had teams study this thing for years, and nothing has ever happened. You show up and start humming, and suddenly it comes to life." They walked together to the dragon's base. In the quiet of the night, Hannah could hear something she had missed during the day. A very faint sound, almost like breathing, coming from inside the structure. "It's not sleeping," she realized. "It's waiting." "Waiting for what?" "I don't know, but I think it has something to do with the songs my grandmother taught me." The next morning, Captain Taman called a meeting. "We need to report this to command," he said. "The dragon's activation could have major implications." "What kind of implications?" Hannah asked. "This structure is older than human space travel. If it's responding to human presence, that suggests a connection we don't understand. Command will want to send specialists." But before the captain could send his report, his communication officer came running into the tent. "Sir, we're receiving multiple long-range signals. They're all asking about the same thing." "What thing?" "They want to know if we've found the mother." Far across the galaxy, in the golden halls of the stellar dominion, Emperor Kang Minho stood before a wall of screens. Each screen showed the face of one of his psychic conduits, the enhanced humans who formed the backbone of his empire's communication network. They were all saying the same thing. "The mother's voice," whispered Admiral Nam Do-yeon, her eyes unfocused, as she channeled signals from across space. "We can hear her singing again." "After all these years," said Commander John Hyunwoo. "She's calling to us." Emperor Minho's hands shook as he gripped the edge of his command console. He had dreamed of this moment since childhood, but he had never truly believed it would come. "Where?" he asked. "Kepler 442c, came the reply from a dozen voices at once. "The sleeping dragon wakes." The Emperor closed his eyes and listened. Deep in his mind, beneath years of training and responsibility, he could hear it too. A woman's voice, singing a lullaby he remembered from dreams. The voice that had shaped his earliest memories, though he had never understood how or why. "Prepare the fleet," he said quietly. "We're going home. 30 years earlier, Earth was dying." Dr. Park Yuna stood in the observation deck of the medical station, watching the planet below through the reinforced glass. From space, Earth looked peaceful. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown continents. But Yuna knew the truth. Down there, hospitals were full of couples who could not have children. Down there, humanity was counting its final generations. The plague had come from nowhere. One day, people were healthy. The next day, 90% of humans could no longer reproduce. The lucky 10% who could still have children were working day and night, but it was not enough. The birth rate had dropped so low that scientists predicted human extinction within 50 years. "Dr. Park," a voice said behind her. "She turned to see Director Kim Seojin, the head of the Genesis Project. His face was grave. "The volunteers are ready." Yuna nodded and followed him through the corridors of the station. They passed laboratories where the best minds of Earth worked desperately to find a solution. Some worked on curing the plague, others worked on artificial reproduction. But the Genesis Project was different. It was humanity's last hope, and it required the ultimate sacrifice. "Are you sure about this?" Director Kim asked as they walked. "Once the process begins, there's no going back." "I'm sure," Yuna said. She had made her decision weeks ago. "My own child died from the plague complications. If I can give life to thousands of others, then my sacrifice has meaning." They entered a large chamber where a team of scientists waited. In the center of the room stood the dragon, though it did not look like the crystal structure Hana would find years later. Here, it was a complex machine of metal and circuits, designed to hold and preserve human consciousness while allowing it to guide biological processes. Dr. Lee Min-jung, Yuna's closest friend and research partner, was making final adjustments to the machine. Her hands shook as she worked. "The neural mapping is complete," she said without looking up. "Your consciousness will be uploaded to the dragon's core systems. From there, you'll be able to monitor and guide the development of the enhanced embryos." "Enhanced?" Yuna asked. "We've made improvements to the human genetic code," Director Kim explained. "Stronger, smarter, more resilient, but most importantly, they'll all carry receptors that respond to your guidance. You'll be their mother, in a way. Your consciousness will help shape their development." Yuna understood. The enhanced humans would be humanity's guardians, designed to protect and guide the species back to health. But they would need guidance themselves, especially in their early years. That's where she came in. "The process will be painful," Dr. Lee warned. "And once your consciousness is uploaded, your physical body will die. But your mind will live on in the dragon, connected to every enhanced human we create." "Will I be able to speak to them?" "Not directly, but you'll influence their development. Your memories, your emotions, your voice, all of that will become part of their psychological foundation. We estimate you'll be able to guide them for at least 20 years before the neural patterns begin to fade." Young Kang Min-ho was the first. As Yuna's consciousness settled into the dragon systems, she watched his development in the artificial womb with wonder and love. She sang to him as he grew, the same lullabies her own mother had sung to her. She whispered stories of kindness and strength. She poured all her maternal instincts into shaping his mind. He was not alone. Hundreds of enhanced embryos developed under her care. Nam Do-yeon, who would become an admiral. John Hyun-woo, destined to be a commander. Each one received her love and guidance as they grew from cells into babies. But the process was harder than anyone had expected. Maintaining consciousness in an artificial system was like trying to hold water in cupped hands. Each day, Yuna felt parts of herself slipping away. Memories faded. Emotions grew dim. The effort of guiding so many developing minds was enormous. "Mother." Little Minho called to her in the dreams they shared. He was 3 years old now, growing up in the care facility with the other enhanced children. "Sing to me," and she did. Even as her own identity began to fragment, she sang. The lullabies became simpler, more basic, as her complex thoughts slowly dissolved. But the love remained. The fierce protective instinct that made her sacrifice everything for these children never faded. By the time Minho was 10, Yuna could barely remember her own name, but she remembered her purpose. Protect the children, guide them, help them grow strong enough to save humanity. The neural patterns are deteriorating faster than we predicted, Dr. Lee reported to the Genesis Project Council. She's giving, too, much of herself to the children. At this rate, she'll fade completely within another 5 years. Can we slow the process? Director Kim asked. Not without reducing her connection to the enhanced humans. And they need that connection. Without her guidance, they might develop antisocial tendencies. They're too powerful to risk that. So they made another difficult choice. When the enhanced humans reached adolescence and their psychological development was complete, they would put the dragon into hibernation. Yuna's fading consciousness would sleep, preserved but inactive, until such time as she might be needed. Again. Will she dream? One of the council members asked. We don't know, Dr. Lee admitted. We're in uncharted territory. Minho was 15 when the time came. He stood with the other enhanced teenagers in the dragon's chamber, all of them feeling the same strange sadness they could not quite understand. The voice is getting quieter, Nam Doyun said. She was 12, but already showed the tactical brilliance that would make her a great admiral. She's tired, Minho replied. Even as a teenager, he felt the weight of leadership. The other enhanced humans looked to him for guidance. She's been taking care of all of us for so long. Will we see her again? Asked little Jeon Hyun-woo. Don't know, Minho said honestly. But we'll remember her. We'll remember the songs. The dragon went dark that day. Yuna's consciousness, what was left of it, sank into hibernation. The enhanced humans were scattered across the galaxy as humanity began its recovery. Some became leaders of colonies. Others joined the military or the sciences. All of them carried the genetic markers that made them superior to baseline humans, and all of them carried the psychological imprint of the woman who had sacrificed everything to give them life. Years passed. Humanity recovered from the plague. The enhanced humans, now adults, built a new civilization among the stars. Some, like Minho, rose to positions of great power. Others, like Doyon and Hyunwoo, became trusted advisors and protectors. But they all remembered the voice that had shaped their earliest memories. In quiet moments, they would hum the lullabies she had sung to them. They would dream of a mother they had never met but loved with all their hearts. And deep in the sleeping dragon, hidden away on a forgotten world, what remained of Dr. Park Yuna's consciousness waited in darkness. She dreamed, when she dreamed at all, of children's voices calling for their mother. She dreamed of songs that needed to be sung. She dreamed of a day when someone would come to wake her up, someone who carried her own genetic code, someone who could sing the old songs with a voice the dragon would recognize. Someone like her daughter Hana, who had survived the plague years against all odds and grown up never knowing her true heritage. The dragon waited, and in her dreams, Yuna waited. 2. Dr. Hana Kim stared at the medical scanner results, reading them for the third time. The numbers did not change. According to every test she had ever taken, she was sterile. The plague damage to her reproductive system was supposed to be permanent. Yet here she was, 6 weeks pregnant. This is impossible, Dr. Cho Junho said, reviewing the same data on his own tablet. The genetic markers in the fetus, I've never seen anything like them. Hana sat on the edge of the medical bay bed, her mind spinning. What kind of markers? Enhanced human markers. The same ones we see in the Emperor's psychic conduits. But that's not the strangest part. Dr. Cho pulled up another screen. The fetus is developing at an accelerated rate. At 6 weeks, it's showing the brain activity of a 3-month pregnancy. What does that mean? I don't know, but I think it has something to do with the dragon. Since Hana had first sung to the massive crystal structure, strange things had been happening. Her dreams were filled with voices she did not recognize. Sometimes she woke up humming songs she had never heard before, and the dragon itself had changed, pulsing with light whenever she came near. Captain Lee Taman entered the medical bay, his face serious. "We need to talk," he said. "All of us." They gathered in the main research tent where the rest of the team was waiting. Sergeant Bae Jiwon looked nervous. Dr. Lee Min-jung, who had joined them from the orbital station, seemed excited and frightened at the same time. "I've been going through the old Genesis Project files," Dr. Lee announced. "The ones that were classified 30 years ago. And I found something." She activated a holographic display showing a young woman's face. The woman had kind eyes and looked remarkably like Hana. "This is Dr. Park Yuna," Dr. Lee continued. "She was the lead scientist on the Genesis project. According to the records, she died during the plague years. But that's not the whole truth." Hana felt her heart skip. "She looks like me." "That's because she was your mother." The words hit Hana like a physical blow. "That's impossible. My mother died when I was a baby, in the plague." "The official records say that," Dr. Lee agreed. "But the classified files tell a different story. Your mother volunteered for an experimental procedure. Her consciousness was uploaded into the dragon to guide the development of the enhanced humans. You were born just before the procedure, but you were believed to have died from plague complications. Somehow you survived and were raised by adoptive parents." Captain Taman leaned forward. "What kind of procedure?" "Neural uploading. Dr. Park Yuna's consciousness became the foundation for the psychological development of every enhanced human. She was their guiding intelligence, their mother figure, their moral compass. But the process was supposed to fade her consciousness over time." "Supposed to?" Dr. Cho asked. "The dragon was put into hibernation mode 20 years ago, with Dr. Park's remaining consciousness preserved inside. The enhanced humans were scattered across the galaxy, but they all carry genetic markers that respond to her neural patterns." Hana put her hand on her stomach, where new life was growing. "And now I'm pregnant with a child that has the same markers." "Not just the same markers," Dr. Lee corrected. "Enhanced markers. Your child will be a bridge between your mother's consciousness and the enhanced humans. She could wake up the dragon completely." Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the camp. Sergeant Bae grabbed her weapon and ran outside. The others followed. In the sky above them, ships were descending through the atmosphere, dozens of them, their hulls gleaming with the golden emblems of the stellar dominion. The largest ship was magnificent, clearly an Imperial flagship. "They found us," Captain Taman said grimly. As the ships landed, creating a circle around their small camp, Hana felt something stir in her mind. The voices in her dreams were getting stronger. She could hear them calling out, filled with joy and anticipation. "Mother," they whispered. "We're coming home to Mother." The first figure to emerge from the Imperial flagship was tall and imposing, wearing the black and gold uniform of the Stellar Dominion. Even at a distance, Hana could see the intensity in his eyes. This was Emperor Kang Minho, the most powerful man in known space. Behind him came his advisors and guards, Admiral Nam Doyeon, her silver hair pulled back severely, her eyes unfocused as she channeled psychic communications. Commander John Hyun-woo, moving with the fluid grace of an enhanced warrior. Others that Hana did not recognize, but all carrying themselves with the same superhuman poise. "Stay calm," Captain Taman whispered to his team. "Let me do the talking." But the Emperor was not looking at the captain. His gaze was fixed on Hana, and there was something in his expression that was both desperate and hopeful. "You," he said, his voice carrying across the distance between them, "you're the one who woke her up." "I don't know what you mean," Hana replied, though part of her did know. "The voice in our minds," Admiral Doyon said, stepping forward. "We've heard it all our lives, but it's been quiet for so long, until now." Commander Hyunwoo nodded. "The mother's voice. You brought her back." "Dr. Park Yuna is your mother," Emperor Minho said. It was not a question. "I can see it in your face. You have her eyes." Hana felt the dragon pulsing behind her, its light growing brighter. The enhanced humans around the Emperor were all reacting to it, their faces showing a mix of joy and pain. "She's in there," the Emperor continued, gesturing toward the crystal structure. "Her consciousness has been sleeping in the dragon for 20 years, but you woke her up. Your voice, your presence, your genetic connection. It brought her back." "What do you want?" Captain Taman asked, stepping protectively in front of Hana. "What I've wanted my entire life," the Emperor replied. "To see my mother again." But even as he spoke, Hana could sense something else in the gathering of enhanced humans. Not all of them were looking at the dragon with love and longing. Some, like a stern-faced general she later learned was named Ryu Seong-min, were looking at it with calculation and ambition. "The mother's awakening changes everything," General Ryu said quietly to his companions. "With her guidance, we could rule not just the enhanced humans, but all of humanity." "That's not what she would want," Admiral Doyon protested. "How do you know what she wants?" General Ryu shot back. "She's been sleeping for 20 years. The galaxy has changed. Maybe it's time for new leadership." Hana realized, with growing alarm, that her mother's awakening was not just a reunion. It was a catalyst that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. The enhanced humans had been content to serve as humanity's protectors and leaders, but what if they decided they should be its rulers instead? And at the center of it all was her unborn child, developing at an impossible rate, carrying genetic codes that could tip the balance one way or another. "I need to speak with her," Emperor Minho said, his voice breaking slightly. "Please, I've dreamed of her voice my entire life. I need to know she's real." Hana looked at the dragon, feeling the pull of the consciousness within. Her mother was in there, somewhere in the crystal depths, waiting, calling, but awakening her completely might unleash forces that no one could control. "I don't know how," Hana admitted. "Sing to her," the Emperor said, "the way you did before. Call her by name." As Hana approached the dragon, she could feel the eyes of hundreds of enhanced humans upon her. Some looked at her with hope, others with suspicion. All of them were waiting to see what would happen when she tried to wake the sleeping mother who had shaped their entire existence. The dragon pulsed brighter, responding to her proximity. And deep inside, something was stirring. Something that had been waiting 30 years for this moment. Hana's pregnancy was advancing at an impossible speed. In just 2 weeks, her body showed the changes that should have taken months. Dr. Cho monitored her constantly, amazed and worried by what he saw. "The child is growing normally in some ways," he told her during one of their daily checkups. "But the neural development is far ahead of schedule. It's as if the baby is already responding to external stimuli." Hana placed her hand on her swelling stomach. "She kicks whenever I get near." "The dragon?" she said. "It's like she knows." "She? I don't know why, but I'm sure it's a girl, and I'm sure she's important to all of this." Outside the medical tent, tensions were rising in the camp. Emperor Minho had established his own base nearby, but the two groups watched each other warily. The enhanced humans were clearly struggling with internal conflicts. "Some of them want to take control," Captain Taman reported to his team. "I've been monitoring their communications. There's a faction led by General Ryu Sung-min that believes the enhanced humans should rule over baseline humanity." "What about the Emperor?" Sergeant Bay asked. "He's trying to keep them united, but his authority is weakening. The closer we get to fully awakening the dragon, the more independent they become." Dr. Lee Min-jung had been studying the dragon's energy patterns. "The consciousness inside is becoming more active," she reported, "but it's fragmented. 30 years of hibernation and neural decay have damaged the neural pathways. Hana's mother is trying to wake up, but she's not the same person who went to sleep." Hana felt this herself when she stood near the dragon. Sometimes the presence inside felt warm and loving, like a mother welcoming her child home. But other times, it felt cold and calculating, like a mind that had forgotten what it meant to be human. "She's been alone in there for so long," Hana said, "watching her children scattered across the galaxy, unable to really communicate with them. I think she's angry." That anger became clear during the first direct contact. Hana had been singing to the dragon as she did every day, when suddenly the crystal surface became transparent. Inside, she could see a figure made of light, shifting and changing like water. "Yuna," Hana whispered, using her mother's name for the first time. The figure turned toward her, and Hana gasped. The face was her own, but older and harder. The eyes that had once been kind now burned with a fierce intensity. "My daughter," the figure said, its voice echoing from everywhere at once. "You've grown so beautiful, and you're carrying the next generation." "Mother, They scattered my children across the stars," the figure interrupted, its form becoming more solid and angry. "They used them as tools, as weapons, as communication devices. That was not what I intended." Emperor Minho approached slowly, his face filled with wonder and fear. "Mother," he said, "it's me, Minho, your first son." The figure looked at him, and for a moment its expression softened. "My little boy," she said. "Look how strong you've become, but you've lost your way, haven't you? All of you have." "We've tried to honor your teachings," Admiral Doyon said, stepping forward with tears in her eyes. "We've protected humanity, just as you wanted." "Protected?" The figure's voice rose. "Or have you simply replaced one form of control with another? I see what you've built. An empire where enhanced humans rule over baseline humans. That was never my intention." General Ryu pushed through the crowd of enhanced humans. "Perhaps your original intention was flawed," he said boldly. "We are superior to baseline humans in every way. Why should we serve them when we could lead them?" The figure turned its burning gaze on him, and General Ryu stepped back involuntarily. "Because power without compassion is tyranny," she said. "And tyranny is what I sacrificed my life to prevent." But times have changed, General Ryu argued. Baseline humanity is weak, divided. They need strong leadership. They need guidance, not domination. The figure was growing brighter, more solid. But perhaps you're right about one thing. Perhaps my original plan was flawed. Perhaps it's time for a new approach. Hana felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of new approach? The enhanced humans have served their purpose, her mother said. They helped humanity survive the plague years. But now they've become a problem themselves. Some seek to rule. Others have forgotten their humanity entirely. Maybe it's time to start over. Start over? Emperor Minho asked. A new plague, the figure said calmly. One that affects only the enhanced humans. Within a generation, they would all be gone, leaving baseline humanity to find its own path. The enhanced humans around the dragon recoiled in horror. You would kill your own children? Admiral Doyon whispered. I would free them from the burden of artificial superiority, the figure replied, and free humanity from the threat they represent. No, Hana said firmly. That's not the answer. The figure turned to her, surprised. You disagree with your mother. I disagree with murder, Hana shot back. Enhanced or baseline, they're all human. They all deserve to live, even if they use their power to oppress others. Then we find a way to change the system, not eliminate the people. Emperor Minho was staring at the figure with a mix of love and horror. You're not her, he said slowly. The mother who raised us would never talk about genocide. 30 years of isolation changes a person, the figure admitted. 30 years of watching my children struggle with powers they were never meant to have. 30 years of seeing the unintended consequences of my sacrifice. But you're still our mother, Commander John Hyunwoo said, and we still need your guidance. Do you? Or do you need to learn to guide yourselves? Hana stepped closer to the dragon, placing both hands on its surface. What if there was a third option, she said. Not genocide, not domination, but evolution. Explain. The enhanced humans are struggling because they're caught between two worlds. They're too different from baseline humans to truly integrate. But they're still human enough to want connection and purpose. What if we could bridge that gap? How? Hana felt her unborn daughter kick strongly. My child, she carries both genetic lines, enhanced and baseline. She could be the template for a new kind of human, not superior or inferior, just different. And through her, maybe we could find a way for all humans to coexist. The figure was quiet for a long moment. It would require changes to the enhanced human's genetic structure, she said finally, and it would require them to give up some of their advantages. Would you do that? Hana asked, turning to face the gathered enhanced humans. Would you give up some of your power to find peace? The responses were mixed. Some, like Admiral Doyon and Commander Hyunwoo, nodded immediately. Others, like General Ryu, looked skeptical. And what about the baseline humans? General Ryu asked. Would they accept us as equals if we were less powerful, or would they seek revenge for years of being governed by their supposed inferiors? It was a fair question, and Hana did not have an easy answer. But before she could respond, her daughter kicked again, harder this time. And suddenly, the dragon began to pulse with a new kind of light. She's coming, Hana gasped, feeling the first contractions. The baby is coming now. Dr. Cho rushed to her side, but Hana waved him away. Not yet, she said. Something is happening. The dragon is changing. The crystal structure was indeed changing, its surface becoming more fluid, more alive. The figure inside was growing brighter, more solid, more real. "The child will be the bridge," the figure said, its voice filled with wonder. "She will carry the genetic keys to unite both sides of humanity. But the process will change everything. Are you ready for that?" Hannah looked around at the faces surrounding her. Enhanced and baseline humans, all watching with a mixture of hope and fear. Her choice would affect them all. "Yes," she said. "I'm ready." And deep inside the dragon, Dr. Park Yuna's consciousness began to prepare for the most important transformation of her existence. The galaxy erupted into chaos when news of the dragon's awakening spread. Across dozens of star systems, enhanced humans began to choose sides. The psychic network that had connected them for so long became a battlefield of competing ideas and loyalties. On the military world of Kairos Prime, Fleet Admiral Oh Sung-jae stood before his officers. All of them were enhanced humans, bred for leadership and tactical thinking. "The time for pretending has ended," he declared. "We are superior to baseline humans in every way. It's time we stopped serving and started ruling." Half of his fleet agreed. The other half, led by Captain Kim Ji-hye of the Peacekeeping Corps, refused to abandon their oath to protect all humanity. Within hours, ships that had served together for years were pointing weapons at each other. "This is madness," Captain Kim said during one final communication with her former admiral. "Dr. Park Yuna never intended for us to become conquerors." "Dr. Park Yuna has been asleep for 20 years, Admiral O replied coldly. "The galaxy has changed. We've evolved beyond her simple vision. Similar conflicts erupted on colony worlds throughout human space. Enhanced humans who had served as governors and peacekeepers found themselves facing rebellion from both baseline humans who feared their power and other enhanced humans who wanted to use that power more aggressively. On New Terra, Governor Lee, Wanchik tried to maintain order as riots broke out in the capital city. Baseline humans demanded that all enhanced humans be removed from positions of authority. Enhanced human administrators refused to step down, claiming they were the only ones qualified to lead. "We built this world," said Director Park Seo-hyun, of the colony's agricultural division. She was enhanced with the ability to process complex environmental data that had made New Terra's farms incredibly productive. Without us, this place would still be a wasteland. "And we worked those farms," shouted Maria Santos, leader of the baseline human workers. "We're not your servants." The conflict might have remained local, but the awakening dragon had amplified the psychic connections between enhanced humans. Emotions and ideas spread like wildfire across the network. Fear, anger, and ambition infected enhanced humans across the galaxy. Emperor Minho found his empire fracturing around him. Reports flooded in from his regional governors. Some were declaring independence. Others were requesting military support to suppress baseline human uprisings. "The network is out of control," Admiral Nam Doyon reported. Her usual composure was cracking under the strain of channeling so many conflicting signals. "I can barely filter the communications anymore. Everyone is shouting at once." Commander John Hyunwoo looked exhausted. "3 of our core worlds have gone dark. No responses to any communications. And we're getting reports of civil war on at least a dozen others." "What about the baseline human governments?" the Emperor asked. "Most are mobilizing their militaries," his intelligence chief reported. "They're terrified that we're planning some kind of takeover. Some are calling for a preemptive strike against all enhanced human populations." Back on Kepler 442c, Hana was struggling with labor complications that Dr. Cho had never seen before. The child she was carrying seemed to be fighting to be born, but also resisting the process. Each contraction sent waves of energy through the dragon, which responded by pulsing brighter and brighter. "The baby's neural activity is off the charts," Dr. Cho reported. "It's like she's already conscious and trying to communicate." "With who?" Captain Taman asked. "Everyone," Hana gasped between contractions. "I can feel her reaching out through the dragon's network. She's touching the minds of enhanced humans across the galaxy." Dr. Lee Min-jung was monitoring the dragon's energy patterns. "The consciousness inside is fragmenting again," she said urgently. "The strain of connecting to so many minds at once is too much. If this continues, we might lose Dr. Park Yuna entirely." Inside the dragon, the figure of Yuna was indeed struggling. The awakening had restored much of her consciousness, but it had also connected her to every enhanced human in the galaxy. She could feel their conflicts, their fears, their growing hatred for each other and for baseline humanity. "They're tearing themselves apart," she said to Hana, her voice filled with pain. "All of my children, fighting like animals. This is my fault. I created them to be guardians, but I made them too proud, too sure of their own superiority." "It's not too late to fix this," Hana insisted, even as another contraction racked her body. "How? They won't listen to me anymore. Half of them think I'm weak for wanting to protect baseline humans. The other half blame me for creating the enhanced humans in the first place." "Maybe they don't need to listen to you," Hana said. "Maybe they need to listen to each other." Before Yuna could ask what she meant, Hana's daughter decided to be born. The moment the baby emerged into the world, everything changed. The dragon exploded with light, sending waves of energy across the galaxy. Every enhanced human, no matter where they were, suddenly felt a new presence in their minds. It was not the stern voice of their mother creator or the commanding tones of their leaders. It was the innocent, pure thoughts of a newborn child. A child who carried the genetic heritage of both enhanced and baseline humanity. Baby Yeren, as Hana would name her, was not speaking in words. She was communicating in emotions and images. But the message was clear to everyone who felt her touch. She showed them what she saw: enhanced humans and baseline humans, not as separate species, but as parts of the same family. She showed them the love her mother felt for all of them, enhanced and baseline alike. She showed them the fear and pain that their conflicts were causing. On New Terra, Governor Lee Wanchik stopped in the middle of a heated argument with the baseline human protesters. Through the dragon's network, he felt the baby's confusion and sadness at the fighting. For the first time in years, he remembered what it felt like to be vulnerable and afraid. "We're all human," he said quietly, the words surprising him as much as anyone else. "Enhanced or not, we're all just trying to live our lives and take care of our families." Maria Santos, the protest leader, felt the same touch in her mind. The baby's presence showed her that the enhanced humans were not monsters or tyrants. They were people, changed by circumstances beyond their control, trying to find their place in the world. "Maybe we can work together," she said hesitantly. "Find a way that works for everyone." Across the galaxy, similar moments of understanding were breaking out. Fleet Admiral Oh Sung-jae felt the baby's innocent trust and remembered why he had originally sworn to protect humanity. Captain Kim Ji-hye felt her determination to serve all people renewed, but not everyone was swayed by the child's influence. General Ryu Seungmin and his faction of hardline enhanced humans tried to block the baby's presence from their minds. "This is manipulation," he declared to his followers. "The child is a weapon designed to make us weak and compliant." Some enhanced humans agreed with him. They cut themselves off from the dragon's network, severing the connections that had defined them since birth. In doing so, they also cut themselves off from the moderating influence that had kept their enhanced abilities stable. Within hours, these isolated enhanced humans began to develop severe psychological problems. Without the network to balance their enhanced neural patterns, they became paranoid, aggressive, and unstable. Several had complete mental breakdowns. Others turned violent, attacking anyone they perceived as a threat. The network isn't just for communication, Dr. Lee realized as she watched the data. It's a stabilizing influence. Enhanced humans can't function properly without it. "Then we have them," Emperor Minho said grimly. "They can join the network and accept the baby's influence, or they can go insane." "That's not a choice," Hana said, holding her newborn daughter close. "That's coercion." As if responding to her mother's words, baby Yaren sent out another wave of communication. This time, the message was different. She was not trying to control or influence anyone. She was simply offering connection. Enhanced humans could choose how much of the network to accept, how much influence to allow. It was not perfect control or perfect freedom, but something in between, a choice that each person could make for themselves. General Ryu felt the offer and struggled with it. He could maintain his independence and risk madness, or he could accept connection and risk losing his certainty. In the end, faced with the breakdown of his own followers, he chose connection. "This is not over," he warned as he reopened his mind to the network. "But for now, we will try this new path." Baby Yaren gurgled contentedly in her mother's arms, unaware that she had just prevented a galactic civil war. But Hana knew that this was only the beginning. The real work of building a new relationship between enhanced and baseline humans was just starting. The integration ceremonies began 3 months after baby Yaren's birth. On worlds across the galaxy, enhanced and baseline humans gathered together for the first time in decades, not as rulers and subjects, but as participants in a grand experiment. Commander On Yeoreum stood before a mixed crowd on the agricultural world of Haven's Rest. Enhanced and baseline humans sat side by side, many of them nervous about what was to come. "Today we try something new," she announced. "Not enhanced human leadership or baseline human rebellion, but partnership. We're going to work together to solve our world's problems, using everyone's strengths." It was not easy. Decades of inequality and resentment could not be erased overnight. Enhanced humans were used to making decisions quickly and efficiently, while baseline humans wanted time to discuss and debate. Baseline humans sometimes felt intimidated by their enhanced neighbors' superior abilities, while enhanced humans grew frustrated with what they saw as slow thinking. But baby Yaren's influence through the Dragon Network helped smooth many conflicts. When tensions rose, her innocent presence reminded everyone of what they were working toward. A future where their children, enhanced and baseline alike, could grow up together. Dr. Lee Min-jung had established a research station near the Dragon to study the ongoing changes. "The network is evolving," she reported to the gathered leaders. "It's becoming less centralized, less controlling. Instead of one consciousness guiding everyone, it's becoming a web of interconnected minds that support each other." Emperor Minho nodded. The past months had been the most challenging of his life, but also the most rewarding. He was learning to lead through cooperation rather than authority, and he found that he liked it. "What about the enhanced humans who can't adapt?" he asked. That's a harder problem, Dr. Lee admitted. About 10% of enhanced humans are having severe difficulties with the new network structure. They're either too damaged by isolation or too rigid in their thinking to accept change. General Ryu Sung-min, who had become an unlikely advocate for gradual reform, spoke up. We're working with them individually. Some just need time and patience. Others may never fully integrate, but we can find ways for them to contribute without causing harm. The real test came when the first generation of new children reached school age. These were children born after the Dragon's awakening, carrying genetic influences from both enhanced and baseline parents. They were not as dramatically enhanced as the previous generation, but they were not entirely baseline either. Little Park Gino was one of these children. His mother was enhanced, his father was baseline, and he himself fell somewhere in between. He was smarter and stronger than most baseline children, but not to the overwhelming degree of the older enhanced humans. He's the future, his teacher, Miss Song Mirai told his parents. He can talk to both enhanced and baseline children easily. He bridges the gap between them. Similar children were appearing across the galaxy. They formed the foundation of a new society where the distinction between enhanced and baseline was becoming less important than individual talents and interests. But the greatest change was happening within the dragon itself. Dr. Park Yuna's consciousness was evolving, influenced by her connection to millions of minds across the galaxy. She was no longer the isolated, angry figure who had contemplated genocide. She was becoming something new, a collective wisdom drawn from all of humanity's experiences. I understand now, she told Hana during one of their regular conversations. I tried to create guardians for humanity, but what humanity really needed was teachers, people who could help everyone grow and develop, not rule over them. Hana smiled as she watched baby Yeren play with a toy that responded to both physical touch and mental commands. Her daughter was growing up in a world that was still struggling, still imperfect, but full of possibility. What happens to you now? Hana asked her mother. I fade, Yuna replied peacefully. But not into nothing. I become part of the network, part of the collective wisdom that guides without controlling. My individual consciousness will dissolve, but my love for all of you will remain. I'll miss you. You'll carry me with you. Every song you sing, every kindness you show, every time you choose compassion over control, that's how mothers live on in their children. The formal ceremony took place a year after baby Yeren's birth. Representatives from across human space gathered on Kepler 442c to witness the final transformation of the dragon. Enhanced and baseline humans stood together, no longer as separate species, but as different expressions of the same basic humanity. Emperor Minho formally abdicated his throne, replacing the stellar dominion with a new federation based on cooperation, rather than hierarchy. Power shared is power strengthened, he declared, using words that Dr. Park Yuna had whispered to him in childhood dreams. Admiral Nam Do-yeon established the first integrated command structure where enhanced and baseline humans worked as equal partners in maintaining galactic peace. Commander Jeon Hyun-woo founded schools where children of all genetic backgrounds learned together. Even General Ryu found his place in the new order, using his tactical genius to help solve complex social problems rather than plan military campaigns. As Hapo, the ceremony reached its climax. Hana approached the dragon one last time. Her mother's figure was barely visible now, more suggestion than substance. Sing to me, Yuna requested. One last lullaby. Hannah began to sing, but this time she was not alone. Baby Yaren, now walking and babbling her first words, added her voice to the song. Then Emperor Minho joined in, remembering the melodies from his earliest memories. Admiral Doyon, Commander Hyun-woo, and thousands of others across the galaxy sang along through the network. It was not the controlling song of a mother to her dependent children. It was the celebration song of a family that had grown beyond its original boundaries. Enhanced and baseline, young and old, leaders and followers, all united in the simple joy of being alive and connected. As the song reached its end, Dr. Park Yuna's individual consciousness finally dissolved into the network, but her love remained, flowing through the connections between millions of minds, guiding without controlling, teaching without commanding. The dragon itself began to change, its crystalline structure becoming more organic, more alive. It was no longer a prison for a single consciousness, but a living symbol of unity. Its light could be seen from orbit, pulsing gently with the combined heartbeats of humanity. Years later, when baby Yaren had grown into a young woman, she would often come to the dragon to think and plan. She had inherited her grandmother's scientific mind and her mother's compassionate heart, but she was creating her own path in the world. "Tell me about the old days," she would ask Hannah during their visits. "There were enhanced humans and baseline humans," Hannah would reply. "And they thought they were different species. But they were wrong. There was only ever one human family, learning to grow together." The dragon would pulse approvingly at these conversations, its network carrying the stories to children across the galaxy. Stories of conflict overcome, of differences celebrated rather than feared, of love powerful enough to reshape the genetic code of an entire species. And sometimes, in quiet moments when the solar winds were still, visitors to the dragon could swear they heard singing. Not the voice of one woman sacrificing herself for her children, but the voices of millions of humans singing together. Enhanced and baseline, young and old, all of them part of the same endless song. The song of a family that had learned, finally, to sing in harmony. In the end, that was Dr. Park Yuna's greatest creation. Not enhanced humans or advanced technology, but the simple understanding that love is stronger than genetic code, that connection is more powerful than control, and that the best way to guide children is to teach them to guide themselves. The dragon sleeps now, but it dreams of music, and across the galaxy, humanity sings itself into the future, one voice at a time.